This is a review on Stephen King's From a Buick 8. Cops know a lot about the psychology of grief. Most of us know more than we want to. That quote came from about the first 30 seconds of this book. And as we dive deeper into this book, we're going to learn just how much about grief this book is. And we're going to get back to that. But first, let's talk about From a Buick 6. There's a Bob Dylan song called From a Buick 6. She's a junkyard angel, and she gives me bread. And if I go down dying, she's bound to put a blanket on my head. From a Buick 6, Bob Dylan. And this book is From a Buick 8 by Stephen King. Bob Dylan's song, From a Buick 6, I think it's a good idea to read all the lyrics to that song, maybe listen to it a few times. When you're right in the middle of this book, you might ask yourself halfway through this book what you think this book is really about. When Stephen King picks a car, he doesn't pick a Toyota Corolla. No, he picks something with a big old grill, Cadillacs, Buicks, Furies. There's two major car books by King. There's Christine, and then this is From a Buick 8. Now there's Mr. Mercedes, but is that car the monster in Mr. Mercedes? Yeah, there might be some evil in that car, but it's really the driver. But From a Buick 8 and from Christine, those cars are the monsters. There's also that thing about, there's like that through line in every single Stephen King book about how you never get something for nothing. Anything this car gives you, anything the car in Christine gives you, there's a heavy, heavy price to pay. Sometimes it's everything you have. What's this book really about? Is it about a car that strangely appears at a gas station in the middle of nowhere? About a conduit to another world? Or is it about a feeling like grief or anxiety that hides out in this shed? And for a long time, it's quiet. And it doesn't do anything. But then every once in a while, it wakes up and it shakes your earth and it gives birth to a demon. There were many times I had to stop and ask myself if the other world that this car or thing that looked like a car came from, I had to ask myself if that was Midworld. If there was anything in this From a Buick 8 that was linked to the Dark Tower. If the man that got out of this Buick 8, this thing that looked like a Buick 8, if he was some sort of a dark man or low man, or because I think that this Buick, I was wondering where the things that were coming out of this car were coming from. Were they coming from Midworld? Were they coming from the land of the Dark Tower? Those are some of the questions I really just had to ask myself. Or how many of these things in the King universe are linked together? For me, this book's about grief. Or it's about anxiety. It's about those feelings that hide deep inside. Just when you think that they're gone totally quiet, just when you think that they've gone dormant, they wake up again. What kept me turning the pages in this book was getting to be inside the police officers' minds. You got to go inside their minds, look through their eyes, and see what it was like to be a small town cop. In this book, there's a strange guy in a black coat, long black coat, drops off this Buick at a gas station. This Buick just rolls into this gas station way out in the middle of nowhere. And this guy in a black coat gets out of it, disappears. Police come, they pick up the car, and it doesn't take them very long to realize it's not a car. It's actually a conduit. It's actually like a portal between here and another world. And they take this car and they hide it in some warehouse, and every once in a while it gives birth to a demon. Now, this car is responsible for a lot of deaths, and there's this boy in the story who's trying to get back everything he lost from his father. His father dies. The story starts right out talking about that. And there's some really descriptive, probably some of Stephen King's best descriptions of of horror and trauma are in this book when the boy's father gets killed. And you find out, like, this book's about trauma, and as human beings, sometimes when we have trauma, we'll try to hide it way back somewhere in our mind. And that's what they do with this car. They stick it in a warehouse, and sometimes it just goes away, but then sometimes it comes back, and it manifests when you don't want it to manifest, and it screws up everything. It like messes up your whole life, and that's what happens with this car. They try to hide the trauma somewhere back in their mind.
What I found most fascinating about From a Buick 8 was how it took you deep into the police officer's world, the small town, kind of backcountry police officer, what it's like to be that guy. There's a lot of camaraderie in the small town police officers, and the relationships that they built, you know, what kind of friends they were, their jobs, how much they loved their job, and you learned their secrets and how they worked. Yeah, it was about a strange guy in a black coat who dropped off a strange car at a gas station, and that guy never turned up again. And the car wasn't really a car. It was like a portal to another world. And every once in a while, it brought back a creature from that other world, or something from that other world. So it's a portal to another world. But the police, they took this car and they put it in a shed. They put it out in the warehouse. And at the same time, though, it was about this boy who was trying to keep the memory of his father alive. And what came with that was grief. And just like how grief can sneak up on you sometimes and bring out something ugly, just like how it's a feeling that when you shove it down and you hide it somewhere, you never know when it's going to come back up and rear its head in your life again. That's what this story was like. It was, the boy was trying to keep his father alive, and he was trying to get to know and get into his father's world as much as he could. But every once in a while, that car would bring something ugly back into this world. And that's what I got from a Buick 8. It was about grief. And when grief would come back and rear its head and leave something ugly in the world.